The tour is heading back north of the border to Canada for this week's RBC Canadian Open at St. George's Golf and Country Club. And I got all the info you need about who we think is going to win this week, how we're playing DFS, and more. Listen up now on the Four Thoughts PGA podcast presented by DFS Army. What up, everybody? Welcome back to another Four Thoughts PGA podcast presented by DFS Army. We are talking about the RBC Canadian Open this week. First time since 2019 that the tour is heading back north of the border. Thanks, COVID, right? And we are at not a brand new venue, but a new venue, at least in terms of us being able to play DFS here. As you guys may remember, the RBC Canadian Open typically used to be hosted after the week after the Open Championship, and typically for a lot of years was hosted at Glen Abbey Golf Club in Canada. And now we are at a brand new, not brand new. We played here in 2010. Carl Pedersen won, but a new course, at least for us researching and trying to figure out for DFS purposes, at St. George's Golf and Country Club, just outside of Toronto, not even really outside of Toronto, pretty much inside of Toronto, but up north of the border. The last time this was played was 2019. Rory Mcilroy got it done for the championship. You guys might remember this tournament. We had a lot of years where Johnny Vegas crushed. The guy loved Glen Abbey, and there was probably nobody more disappointed than Johnny Vegas when this tournament was ended up ending their contract at Glen Abbey and starting to find different places to play. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can look it up here, who they played or where they played last year, or in 2019 when Rory won. Let me see. RBC Canadian Open. Oh yeah, we were at Hamilton Golf and Country Club. Before that, it was at Glen Abbey for about 5 years in a row, and now we are at St. George's. This is a really interesting course. I'm excited to kind of break it down here. It's going to be a fun week. The top of the field is studs, right? We've got Rory, we've got JT, we got Scotty Scheffler. The bottom of the field is pretty trashy. So it's going to be an interesting week to build. Before we get there, though, I want to give a big shout out to longtime DFS Army sub, Duster. He has been these screenshots are not anything new. Duster took down, close to 80, 90K, including his Fantasy World Golf Championship ticket. But active member of our Discord, will never change the Mr. Kangaroo, or Captain Kangaroo, what's it called? Avatar to DFS Army one. Cause I mean, if you're winning, I get it, buddy. But Duster's been a long time, member. And, obviously I think that here's what I respect about the way that Duster plays is you can see Thunderdome. You can see, the 21.3K Country Club for Showdown where he crushed on Sunday. Where Showdown really, really good on Sunday this week. Tough week to handicap because of some of the high numbers. But here's what I love about Duster and the way that he plays is obviously the numbers are big, right? The 40, the 50, the $100,000 we've seen him win in the past, but he plays these smaller contests, right? So obviously the entry fee is bigger, but there are smaller contests for lower entry fees, right? And you don't have to be perfect in those contests. He had Cam Young shoot 84 on Sunday, 84, and was still able to be in the nuts here. Because that's, when you play those smaller contests, you don't have to be perfect. I think there's this common misconception that you have to be, and you do. You have to be perfect in the $5 drive the green or the $20 Millie Maker or whatever it is. You have to be perfect. You have to be exactly on the nuts. And even in some of these contests, like the $100 single entry, if you're talking 5,000 lineups, 10,000 lineups, you have to be perfect. But you play a contest with 100, 200 people, the margin of error is so much bigger. And I feel like at times we forget that as DFS players because we're chasing this big prize. And you see this number. Yeah, Duster took home 80,000, but he also played almost 5, 6. That's a normal week for him, right? The Thunderdome is typically 5,300 to enter. So he's playing almost $10,000 here, right? But it you almost got to take the zeros off the end, work your way back to what you are playing. So yeah, it's exciting to see this, but he'd be the first guy to tell you that this happens, especially at least in a smaller contest. You can do this maybe once every 7 or 8 weeks. You're going to have weeks where you're going to strike out. And can you handle that variance? And a lot of guys who play DFS can't. I'd be the first, like my core last week got absolutely smoked, right? Smoked. Fitzy missed the cut. The only guy that played halfway decent was Shane Lowry, right? And cheap guy that was really high, Kurt Kitayama, was like had -5 on Friday and then fell all the way back and crushed. I got like my core got smoked last week, and I know that a lot of guys struggled because they play my core, and that I feel that, right? But me too, right? And it's hard, right? You got to be able to handle that variance. There are going to be weeks where you strike out, and I think it's really important to look at your process and go back and say, okay, where did I maybe make a mistake here, and where did I, what's something that I saw that didn't, and it's hard. I am for sure wrong at times, but at the same time, like Matt Fitzpatrick was a core play for me last week. He was a little bit higher, not like super high owned, but he was high enough owned. But the guy had 2 of his worst 5 putting performances of his career back to back on Thursday and Friday. That's golf, man. That happens, right? So you got to be able to withstand that, because you're not going to win every week. It's not like you can feasibly, like, you're not going to, in NFL, you are not going to win every week, but you're not also going to go on like these like super long cold streaks, at least if you're playing like cash, things like that. Whereas the variance level is so cranked up in golf that you can play smart, you can play cash, and you can still go completely strikeout city, right? That's the difference between DFS golf and a lot of other sports. All right. And you just got to keep plugging, head above water, try to keep your head above water. Look at your process. Do I need to change things? Do I need to, dive in a little bit deeper into certain aspects, right? Or at the end of the day, do you just chalk it up and go, hey, that was variance. I'm going to keep doing things the same way. And it's been successful for me in the past. And that's a hard thing to do, because like after last week, I look at my stuff and I'm like, I want to blow everything up. I want to do everything differently. I want to look at, and I just keep coming back to, this is what's made us successful in the past. It's going to continue. I'm not going to look at noisy data. I'm not going to change and just play the chalk, or like, you just got to keep, if there's a process that works for you, you got to keep going. And maybe that process is, I think sometimes we ingest too much information, right? So maybe it's, I got to cut some stuff out, right? I got to quit listening to every single podcast on earth. So I'm going to get off my soapbox here, but I love the way Duster plays. I'm so excited for him. That's life-changing money. I'm excited for that Fantasy World Golf Championship ticket for him to come through. Hopefully he can make a deep run in that this year, and we get a few other guys that find tickets too. So on to this week, the RBC Canadian Open. My boy Shane Lowry, St. George's Golf and Country Club. It's a par 70, 7,014 yards. It is not very long, all right? But the length it's spread out well, I guess would be a good way to say it. We've got some long par 4s. We've got 5 par 3s, which is a weird setup for a par 70, and 3 par 4s, or 3 par 5s. But it's the par 3s are long. They're uphill at times. So it plays longer than that number. You see that 7,014, and you're like, this is a short course. Everybody's going to tear it up, but it's tight. We're going to see, I don't think that driving distance is going to be a huge advantage this week like it normally is. Obviously, hitting the ball a long ways is good, but you just got to put yourself in the right spot around here. The rough is penal. The tree-lined fairways, you got to find the fairway. All right. Super small greens, 4,000 square feet there. And the greens have been completely redone since we last played this tournament in 2010 when Carl Pedersen won. And at that year, they had a hard time getting the greens up above like 10 on the stimp. And now with the Tom Doak redesign, good agronomy, they are able to likely run them at around 12. I think we're looking at a little bit of rain Thursday morning, so we may see that number. It's not going to quite play that fast. Tons of sand bunkers, only one little water hazard out here. That's not going to be a huge issue. Bent grass on the greens. I'm assuming, it's I live in the northern hemisphere, the northern part of the United States. This is a little similar latitude, longitude, a little bit further north than Toronto, but I'm assuming we're going to get POA, especially since we have POA on the fairways and tees, that POA will creep in the afternoon. So we'll see these greens play a little bit bumpier in the afternoon. What that tells me is that for showdown, things like that, we want to try to focus at least on Thursday and Friday on those morning tee times. Bent grass in the fairways, rough, Kentucky blue, 3.5. We get a little bit of rain, that's going to thicken up. All right. I think that the rough is going to be very tough to get out of this year. You're going to have a hard time getting it to the greens from the rough. It'll be lush, and there is going to be a major premium placed on hitting fairways. 1929 design. Like I said, Tom Doak redid the greens and all that in 2014. The cut line here in 2010 was even. The winning score was Carl Pedersen at -14. I think we see something similar here. I just kept this picture in a round because I just love it. I just love he's gutted that he had COVID and had to leave the tournament. Tight tree line fairways. I think that short hitters can be successful here. We look at the leaderboard last time. They got guys like Pedersen, Luke Donald, Matt Kuchar kind of towards the top of the leaderboard. You just really need to have an elite short game. And typically those guys that are a little shorter off the tee do have an elite short game because they got to make up for it somewhere else. So guys who find fairways, guys who have good short games, right? Especially around the greens. All right. That's going to be huge. And then we can look at some angles in on guys, who maybe have done well on shorter courses here. I think that we look at comp courses. We're talking about places like the Heritage, right? I think that's a great comp course for here. We have small green structures, emphasis on finding fairways, placement off the tee. And we've seen a lot of results there over the years, right? Whereas we're only looking at one sample size here. And what we've seen at that course is that a variety of guys can get it done. It just comes down to who's going to find fairways, who's going to ball strike their way around the course. You can make up for a lot of issues around the green and things like that if you're a good ball striker. Former winners, it doesn't really matter, right? We're playing a different course, but Rory won by 7 strokes. DJ led the field strokes gained tee to green. Johnny Vegas. We're seeing these big numbers here. I think with the strength of the field this week, I think that we are likely going to be more around that -15, -16 winners. Like I said, it looks like a little bit of rain on Thursday morning and Friday afternoon, right? So what if it indeed is, we're looking at a 1/4 inch of rain, as long as there's not a lot of lightning or they're able to drain the course well, I don't think we'll have a big delay on Thursday morning. But if we do, we could see a big AM PM swing because these guys, let's say they don't get out till 11, right? They're playing a super soft course from the rain, all right? They get out, they play in that, course heats up a little bit. It's not supposed to be super warm. But then they get out in the afternoon on Friday, again, a little bit of rain, course might be a little softer than normal. Maybe there's a delay. Those guys might get the scoring advantage this week. So something to think about. Core plays for the week for me. Let's go to our cheat sheet. I'll show you guys that here. Hold on, let me bring that up. Just going to show you my core plays on the cheat sheet because it didn't show up in our thing. Let's look at the DFS Army PGA Golf cheat sheet here. Again, if you are a DFS Army VIP, you can use the code UpNorth for 10% off. And that gets you everything. That gets you baseball. That gets you the whole shebang. NHL playoffs right now, NBA playoffs, like guys are smashing it. So here's my core for the week. Looking at Shane Lowry, Harold Varner, Brendan Todd, and David Lipsky. All right. Lowry starts as you dive through the information here, you look at kind of where everybody is. There's not a better play than Shane Lowry this week in terms of course fit. He just par threes, long par threes, he crushes. He's so good around the greens. I just don't see anybody. I mean, sure, Scottie Scheffler's the number 1 player in the world, whatever. He's maybe a better course fit just because of his skill set right now. But Lowry is trending. I'm not going to get off him here. Again, core play for me last week. Core play for me the week before. I am pot committed on Shane Lowry. Now, it kind of reminds me of a couple years ago when I just had Sung J M as core play every single week until he won, because it's going to happen. He is going to win. I don't know if it's going to be here, maybe at the US Open. I think that Brookline's a great course for him, or the country club. And I think he's got a really good shot at St. Andrews as well. He is going to win, though. That is going to happen at some point this season. So I'm gonna keep pounding him here, especially at courses that are really good course fits like here. Harold Varner comes in a little bit cheaper, and because of that high price tag on Varner this week, I think that people are going to be off him. My concern is that he's going to maybe struggle a little bit off the tee. It's not super accurate, but he should be able to club down. He should be able to find a few more fairways. And I just think that he's, again, such an elite ball striker. A course that is going to reward that. He's good around the greens when he does miss. If he can just putt a little and find some fairways, he's going to be in the mix this week and at low ownership. Brandon Todd playing some great golf, just third at the Charles Schwab. Just missed out on U.S. Open qualifying because he didn't play great on his first 18 and was in Georgia where they only took 4. But at 82, like the salaries this week are such, and the field strength is such that it's going to be really hard to find good plays, unfortunately. So Brendan Todd, I typically at 8,200, I'm not super interested, but he's been playing well. One of those short guys that has good short game that if he strikes the ball well, he's going to be in the mix. And then David Lipsky is the final guy in there. Again, it's just, before we get to Lipsky, I love Rose here at like 84 or whatever, 86. I think that he's a great play this week, but he's going to be super high owned. So Todd's my pivot off of a chalk Rose. But David Lipsky, I think, has been playing some really good golf. I'd looked at Pat Perez here, but then he withdrew because I think he's going to the LIV, it sounds like, maybe. Which that's a whole, I should do a whole podcast on that, but all my thoughts on that. But Lipsky, elite ball striker, good score. 7,300 is probably too cheap for him in this field. I looked at Aaron Rye, but if you were going to play all 4 core together, it's kind of hard to fit those guys. And that's the other thing. I have my 4 core here. That I typically like to say, okay, yeah, this is a good start to a lineup, right? Now fill in these last 2 pieces. This week, because of the salary, I wrote in there, hey, I love Lowry and Varner. You can play them together. I do think maybe your lineup is better without them together, right? Without having 2 studs because of what you have to do below 7,000, and below 7,000 this week is awful. So you can go Lowry Lipsky or Lowry Todd or Lowry Todd Lipsky or Varner Todd. Like, you don't have to play my core together all the time. I don't. You can still get 30 to 40% of Lowry and Varner, and maybe that's 5% of those lineups are them together and the rest of them separate, right? So again, don't have to do it exactly like I do, but that's kind of how my strategy is going to go this week. So I really like those 4 guys. There's a bunch of other guys that I like this week that are kind of sneaky. And obviously there's going to be, you look at the Schefflers, the Rorys, the J, like that's easy. Those guys are good plays, right? But where we are going to win this week, or you are going to win this week, based on the guys at 8,500 and below that you play. So if you want who I'm playing, you got to be a DFS Army VIP. That gets you access to the cheat sheet. That gets you access to all our projections, our optimizer, all that jazz. And you can do that by going to dfsarmy.com. Type in that code up north. It gets you 10% off a VIP membership. Come join us. Hang out in Discord. Let's tilt together this week, people. Let's tilt together and talk about LIV in the Discord and what a gong show those team names are. So again, I am DFS Up North, aka Josh Thomas for DFS Army here with the 4 Thoughts PGA podcast for the RBC Canadian Open. Hit me up on Discord. Hit me up on Twitter. You know how to get a hold of me. Cheers, everybody.